Dr. Eve. How are you?
Good morning. How are you, Fay?
I'm great. I'm wonderful and ecstatic that you're joining us back for health, wellness, and lifestyle. It's always a pleasure.
I've had a lot of fun the last couple of weeks, and I can't wait to see what you're going to come up with for today.
Well, how did you know? I have like a whole list of things I want to talk about that I can personally relate. One of them, it's a main topic because I have three girls in my house and two of them being teenagers, is waxing. They want to take care of their eyebrows, their legs or whatever. So
Wow.
there's a lot going on out there. Look at this kit we ordered ourselves. So there's a lot of myths, but more importantly, I need you to talk real and let us know what to avoid, what not to do, what can happen, because I can definitely be the worst case scenario. So
And there's a few problems that can happen with those home waxing kits. So we should talk about that too.
100%. And then another thing is my one daughter, we all have been washing our hands obsessively. Everyone's complaining about the manicures, forget that. Our skin is like so dry. I don't know if it's from the soap or I'm assuming it's from overwashing. My one daughter, her skin is really, really bad on her hands. And like, I don't know how to properly treat it, what to do about it. And I'm sure there's so many other people in the same boat. And then
we can talk about that rash also. Absolutely.
And then the other thing that we really need to talk about, because I have friends of mine that are contacting me and saying, oh my God, I got this color. Everyone's freaking out with their hair. I mean, women are women. There's Mother's Day this weekend.
Same here.
We want to look good. We want to feel good. But then, we're ordering things that we're not exactly sure. We're trying to get tips. One person says get nothing. But the most important thing about that is people are reacting. They're coloring their eyebrow tints, lash tints. You go into Target, which technically you shouldn't be going to Target anything but food, but hey, we're going by that beauty section. They have eyebrow tints and all that. I want to talk what can happen, the possibilities, and it's pretty serious. So there's a lot to talk about today. So I'm super happy to have you.
Sure. So we can talk about the pitfalls of all of our home self-beauty treatments.
Yeah.
Okay. Maybe let's start with the hands.
Yep.
Because everybody is washing their hands excessively due to the coronavirus. We've been warned by the government that touching our eyes, nose, and mouth with our hands can spread the coronavirus. So one of the most important things and the very first thing that they promoted was to wash your hands regularly, and either to wash regularly or to use hand sanitizers. When you wash your hands, they usually suggest washing for about 20 seconds, and that's singing the happy birthday song twice. That's a long time. That can really strip the hands of its natural oils. And then of course the hand sanitizers, because they're primarily based with alcohol, those also can strip the hands of oils. So the more you wash, the more irritated your hands are going to get. And at first they just get a little dry and flaky. Then they start to get a little rougher. Then you start to feel the itch. And then you see the flat out eczema. So the most important thing is to try to prevent this from happening. So one thing that I recommend is that you wash for whatever you need for hygiene. If you're cooking and maybe you get a little drop of tomato on one finger or a little drop of peanut butter on one finger, then maybe instead of washing the whole hands, just wipe, because we have to overwash for all our hygiene reasons right now. But when you start to get a bit drier, maybe to prevent, we can all start using this now. My favorite hand cream is Neutrogena Hand Cream Norwegian Formula. It's a little tube, and all you need is a dab. That one little dab, get it all over. Make sure you get in between here and use that as many times per day as you can, especially after washing. That is by far, hands down, my favorite hand cream. Most of the other products that are touted as moisturizers, those lotions may actually dry the skin out more, and they may feel softer for just a couple of minutes, but they're not really going to get deep down hydration and help prevent, and most importantly, help treat. Because once you start getting eczemas, then a lot of those hand lotions that are sold over the counter are going to dry you out even more. So don't waste your time looking at all those other different brands. Just buy Neutrogena hand cream Norwegian formula.
No, but it's funny you say that because you brought up two things that directly affect me. So like when you said to get a little bit of that tomato sauce, I mean, God knows how much cooking I've been doing like overtime. It's like I'm a short order cook in a Greek diner. Like I'm literally cooking all the time. But you know, and I like yesterday, like I got a little tomato sauce here. My daughter wanted to make a healthy version of like chocolate peanut butter cookies, you know, so then I got a little
Good.
peanut butter trying to help her out. So like I ended up like soaping up my whole hand because I'm used to that. And that's what I ended up doing was I soaped up my entire hand and I noticed my hands are even drier. My daughter, what I think is full blown eczema now. Like I'm going to have to bring her in because nothing that I'm putting on, I think it's exacerbating it. I don't think it's making it better. So
we are open for emergencies like that, or if people still don't feel comfortable coming into an office. And I will say we're very, very careful. Only one patient in at a time. You're straight into the room. The room is sanitized as soon as you leave. We don't like patients to cross each other in the hallway. We're fully dressed I-95 masks. But if you prefer still not to come in person, we are doing telehealth visits. So that's telemedicine where you call up, make an appointment, and at the appropriate time, we'll send you a link to your telephone, and then you click on that link and we're connected and we can talk. You could show me your rash and we can make suggestions for how to treat, how to prevent, and then send the prescription straight through to your pharmacy. Because some people, when they do get eczema, they're going to need a cortisone ointment.
beautiful. I mean, that's exactly what we needed to know. Real time, real information, and that we have options, because that's the worst thing. I think people are getting a little crazy because you don't know what options you have. So I'm super grateful to have you on board, at least for that. Let's move on and talk about the next problem or the next thing that's trending, question, hot topic. Which one you
That must be hair color.
Yeah, I was waiting to see that. Yeah, 100%. Everyone's talking to me about grays or roots, or they're just flipping out. So
I went to go get my hair colored the very last day they were allowed because I had a suspicion that this problem was going to last a bit longer than expected. And I also made sure I got one of those powders with the color to match. So I was able to do my roots today before we got on. But what's interesting is my hairdresser expressed to me her fear was that people were going to do a lot of home color kits, and it's going to be very hard to correct those color errors after the fact. So there are a lot of salons that are mixing up color for their clients, and then you Venmo them or whatever, and then they drop it off at your house outside somewhere, and it's contactless delivery. So if you're able to do color yourself, that's great. But then when you do the color, a lot of people can have reactions to it. Some people can have a true allergic reaction to the hair dye itself, which is PPD, paraphenylene diamine, or you can have an irritant or allergic reaction to any of the other ingredients in that color. So let's say you're going to go buy your own color and you go to the store and you try this one box of, say, a Revlon light brown, and you get a reaction to it and you think, oh my God, I'm allergic to Revlon. Well, it's not exactly true. In each box, in each shade, there are different chemicals. So you may have tried that Revlon light brown and you think, oh, I'm going to go a darker shade or a lighter shade. Well, there are different chemicals in those shades. And then if you look at the L'Oreal or the Clairol, it's not that you're allergic to one brand, you're allergic to a chemical. So that chemical is in different shades of the same company, and it's in different companies. So you can't just say, oh, I'll pick a different one, because you may end up with the same problem. But let's say you do. Let's say that you get a rash. What can be done? And again, with telemedicine, if you don't feel comfortable coming into the office, we can prescribe steroid creams. You can even start with a little bit of over-the-counter hydrocortisone 1% cream, although that's a little hard to use in the scalp itself, which is why prescriptions are especially helpful, because we can give you liquids, lotions, and gels, which will go much more easily onto the skin of your scalp. And also be careful and be extra cautious beforehand. Put some Vaseline or Aquaphor, put some cotton strips or gauze to try to keep as much of the color off of your facial skin. And then just like some people are dyeing their hair, some people are trying to dye their eyelashes and their eyebrows also. I would caution against doing that unless you're experienced, because if any dye gets into your eyes, you can have some damage. And again, a good dermatologist or an ophthalmologist or even your internist can prescribe some cortisone drops, but God forbid you do anything where there's going to be permanent damage. So I'd probably caution against doing those home treatments.
Well, that's the biggest thing that, I mean, I've seen people, I mean, I even know like when I go to the salon, I sometimes get reactive while I'm in the salon. I'm very prone to it. So at least they know what they're mixing. They know what they're putting together. Now picture you're taking that on yourself. So
Right.
that, you know, that in itself, it's a big deal. And you can get seriously hurt. It's like a chemical reaction too, as well.
It can be either allergic or irritant. An irritant is like a burn.
Yep.
And that can damage the skin.
So that's why it was super important. Like I wanted to clarify, go over that. I mean, your tips were great. I mean, even just things to do preventative. If you're going to do this, take the proper steps to put things in place. And it's nothing that's crazy. You still have the option of doing it, and there's a better, safer way of doing it.
Yeah.
And again, just because I need that security also, but just in case if you have a reaction, something happens, you're available. They can reach out to you, which is wonderful because, you know, you kind of want to know just in case that something goes wrong, because that's me usually. You want to be able to call and say, oh, you know what? I tried this. This ended up happening. I reacted. It just happens. I mean, and it could be something that even your teenage daughters are trying or doing, then they react. It's, you know, it's interesting how far, you know, I guess this goes, you know, because we, you know, as mothers, you have men trying to figure out how to color their grays. They're trying to cover their grays just as much as we are. So you got to, at least there's options, try to do things safely, contact your salon, because like you said, they're able to mix up color, curbside pickup. I mean, there's a lot of options out there. Don't just rush. Pick up anything else. And most of the time, those products do have things that we react in. So just proceed with caution, I guess. And also try to follow some of the suggested tips were great.
Right. And let your kids know that before they try anything for the first time that they should discuss it with you. Because a lot of times you don't know what your kids are picking up in the store. And then all of a sudden you hear, Mommy.
Oh my God. I can't. So like, yeah. 100%. So, which has happened time and time again. I know my own daughter, which I'm not going to say anything, so that I'm not going to say which one, decided to do something with a sunless tanner, a self tanner. Didn't follow the directions correctly, and it was like a whole concentrated area. It was like, oh my God! But at least she was.
I think we've all done that.
Yeah, but at least she was smart to test a small area. So good. I was like, okay, bravo. With my other daughter, she probably would have just slopped on and then reacted or figured out later. So, you know, very important. Again, what you said was to test a small area first. I think, you know, kind of see how you'll react, which brings us to the next hot topic I've been dying to talk about, and that's home hair removal wax, which a lot of people want to wax their own eyebrows. They're freaking out. So there's a lot to be said about wax.
Let's start with hair removal.
Yep.
Even though we're home and not many people are seeing us, a lot of women just have to get rid of that hair. And the way I think of it is choosing the lesser of the evils, because there's no good way of removing hair. We can shave, we can wax, we can snip, we can pluck, we can thread. There's a lot of different ways, and none of them are completely harmless. But sometimes when we've been used to doing something a certain way at a salon, we think, oh, I watched them a million times, I can do it myself. Well, that can be a recipe for disaster. So you might want to start at home with something easy and simple and safe, and hopefully you have good eyes, because that can be a problem too. A lot of women, for facial hair, they may do waxing or get threading. And threading, you can't do to yourself, at least unless you're not like the most expert person. So that's out of the question. Next, we have waxing. But in case you don't feel comfortable doing waxing yourself, what other options are there? And I have to tell you, a lot more people shave than you realize. It's just that they don't discuss it. So if you can do that in a safe manner, that might be the simplest thing. If you do shave, shave in the direction that the hair grows. Use a clean, fresh razor each time to minimize chance of infection, and just be very light. If you missed something, don't go over it 6 times and be rough about it, because you're just going to cut open the skin very raw. So then we have waxing and the depilatories. I didn't mention that with the lesser of the evils. Depilatories, the creams, are another option that you can use. So both waxing and the depilatory creams can cause 2 different problems. They can either cause an eczema, which is an irritant reaction, or they can cause a rip-roaring folliculitis, which is inflamed and sometimes infected hair follicles. So if you do get a rash from waxing or from the depilatory creams, it's really important in this case to speak to a dermatologist, whether it's in the office as an emergency or online as telemedicine, because the 2 rashes are treated completely differently. And if you treat it the opposite way, you may actually make the rash worse. Let's start with just an irritant dermatitis. If you get an irritant contact dermatitis, otherwise known as eczema, the skin tends to look more red, flat, scaly, and rough. In that case, we usually recommend using a good moisturizer. And over the counter, an excellent one that you can find easily is CeraVe cream. And just buy the plain cream. Don't buy anything, no fancy ingredients, because anything like that might irritate or burn the skin. So use a good moisturizer a few times per day, and you may be able to get away with using over-the-counter hydrocortisone twice per day to bring down that rash. On the other hand, if your rash looks a little bit more pimply, that looks a little bit more like acne, for that, that's a folliculitis, and the hair follicles usually are just inflamed, but sometimes they can actually get infected also. A simple over-the-counter remedy can be a benzoyl peroxide wash or a salicylic acid wash, or perhaps a little bit of over-the-counter antibiotic ointment like bacitracin, neosporin, polymyxin, but all those are frequent allergenic agents, so a lot of people are allergic to the over-the-counter antibiotic ointments and can't use them. So if you speak to a dermatologist, they can prescribe a little bit stronger medication and prescription, and ones that are safe if you have an allergic reaction to the over-the-counter antibiotic ointments. And an interesting fact is, if you are allergic to one of those over-the-counter antibiotic ointments, you're often allergic to all 3 because they can cross-react with each other. So it is important with the waxing and with the depilatories that you differentiate whether it's an irritant reaction, which is red and scaly, versus folliculitis, which is more pimply. And then you can have unusual reactions too from that. Sometimes you can get a little bit of bruising. So any questions, always speak to your favorite local dermatologist, whoever that is.
Well, we know you're our favorite, Dr. Reed. So
Thank you.
no, thank you. I mean, you made some very important, tips for us today. Things that we should be observing. But thank you for being available, to answer these questions. And also, even more so, thank you for being available for these type of emergency situations. So thank you for checking in with us today. It's always a pleasure, so much fun. I can't wait. I have other questions I want to talk about next session. So I'll see you soon.